Yankees fans, hold on tight, because what's happening right now could completely change the course of the team for 2026. There are two bombshell pieces of news, one on the field and one off it, that could shape the future of the Bronx for years to come. If you're the type who lives for every rumor, every press conference, and believes the Yankees still have a fire to reignite the empire, then go ahead and hit like and subscribe, because here we get straight to the point, with everything others only talk about later. This is for those who bleed blue and white, and don't want to be the last to know what's really happening in New York. News 1. Yankees Nation, brace yourselves. The past few hours in New York have been hectic, full of twists that could completely alter the course of the next season. Aaron Boone appeared before the press today, and what seemed like a routine briefing turned into a bombshell of updates about the team's biggest stars. Aaron Judge, Carlos Rodon, Anthony Volpe. 3 names, 3 stories, and one thing in common. The Yankees' immediate future depends on how these guys respond from here on out. But hold on, let's break it down, because the situation is far more complex than it seems. First, the captain, Aaron Judge. Boone confirmed, much to fans' relief, that Judge will not need surgery on his right elbow. Yes, the same elbow that sidelined him for part of the season, and had everyone fearing a possible Tommy John procedure. And for anyone familiar with the injury history of power hitters, that was the biggest fear of all. If Judge had needed surgery like that, he could have missed not just the start of 2026, but potentially the entire year. But no, the diagnosis is positive. Boone made it clear Judge will be 100% ready for the next spring training. This means he returns as a starting outfielder, unrestricted, and Giancarlo Stanton can go back to the role he excels at, hitting as DH. That changes everything, right? During August and September, with Judge limited to the designated hitter role, the team had to improvise. Stanton, who isn't the most mobile athlete on the roster, was forced to play the field more than he should have. The result was visible. Decreased performance, less power at the plate, an offense that seemed stuck in the mud. Now, with Judge returned to field, the Yankees' offensive puzzle starts to align again. But that doesn't mean the problems are over. Far from it, because what comes next is complicated. Carlos Rodon underwent procedure on his left elbow. Nothing drastic, according to Boone, just a removal of small loose fragments in the joint. But the problem is timing. Rodon will be out for 8 weeks, meaning he'll miss the start of next season. And that's a heavy blow. Remember, Garrett Cole, the ace of the rotation, is still recovering from Tommy John surgery. Clark Schmidt is also out, same procedure. So the Yankees start 2026 without 3 of the 5 main arms expected to carry the team. Suddenly, the rotation looks something like this. Max Fried, Luis Gil, Cam Schlittler, and Will Warren. Not bad, but also not a rotation that will intimidate rivals. And that puts direct pressure on Brian Cashman, the general manager. He needs to act, and fast. The market has big names. Framber Valdez, Tatsuya Mai, Dylan Cease, Ranger Suarez. Through trades, there's Joe Rye, Mackenzie Gore, and even rumors involving Adolis Garcia in a bolder package. If Cashman wants to keep the Yankees competitive from opening day, he will need to open the wallet or get creative. Because until Rodon returns, the rotation has to hold the ship, and there's little room for error in the MLB's East Division. Now, let's talk about Anthony Volpe. The kid who, 2 years ago, seemed like the future of the Yankees shortstop position has been hit with a physical nightmare. Boone confirmed. Volpe underwent shoulder surgery and will be out of hitting for 4 months, and out of diving plays for 6. To make matters worse, Brian Cashman officially confirmed. Volpe will start 2026 on the injured list. In 2024, he had 6 defensive runs saved and 14 outs above average. In 2025, those numbers plummeted. 2 DRS minus 7 OA. The difference is staggering. And the offense? Another symptom of the problem. Before the injury, Volpe had a .237/.328/.456 line with 119 WRC+. Solid production. After the injury, it dropped to .205/.255/.374, only 74 WRC+. It's the exact portrait of a player limited by pain, struggling against his own body. Cashman admitted today, yes, the shoulder affected him. Boone added, when healthy, Volpe is still the shortstop of the future. But until then, what to do? With Volpe out, the Yankees need to decide who will hold the shortstop position until midseason. Options are limited. Jose Caballero, acquired at the deadline. Surprised. He played consistently, fielded well, and showed versatility. Boone publicly praised him and seems to trust he could be the ideal temporary replacement. But of course, we're talking about the Yankees, the franchise that always aims high, and the market may offer tempting alternatives. Bo Bichette is the most talked about name, an incredible hitter, but defensively unstable. Ha-Seong Kim could enter the picture, depending on his opt-out. Even Trevor Story could appear, although his age and recent history raised doubts. But the question is it worth bringing in a big name for just a few months, or stick with the plan? Leave Caballero as a temporary starter and wait for Volpe to recover? This is Cashman's dilemma. And as always, he'll need to balance short-term and long-term priorities. With Judge healthy, right field is secured. But the rest? Trent Grisham will become a free agent. Cody Bellinger is expected to opt out and test the market. So at this moment, the only confirmed name besides Judge is Jasson Dominguez. Dominguez had his longest MLB stint in 2025. He hit at league average but struggled defensively. Boone was clear. We expect him to be a regular next year, but it depends on what we do in the offseason. This opens a range of possibilities. Cashman said today he would love to have Bellinger back, but no formal talks have happened yet. On the Yankees' radar are names like Kyle Tucker, Harrison Bader, Cedric Mullins, Lars Nootbaar, and even Adolis Garcia. Imagine a lineup with Judge in right, Dominguez in center, and a Bellinger or a Tucker in left. Offensively, that would be one of the most dangerous trios in MLB. But there's an internal factor that can't be ignored. Spencer Jones. The prospect is developing, and Cashman confirmed he will compete for a spot on the main roster. Jones is athletic, left-handed, has power, and a physical presence reminiscent of Aaron Judge in his early years. If he impresses in spring training, he could completely shake up the front office's plans. And let's face it, an outfield with Judge, Dominguez, and Jones would be a real spectacle. So, after all this, how does 2026 shape up? The main lineup, if all goes well, could have Judge in right field, Dominguez or Jones in center, a new name in left, Stanton as DH, Rizzo at first base, Torres or a replacement at second, Caballero or a reinforcement. At shortstop, LeMahieu at third, and a solid catcher, maybe Austin Wells behind the plate. The rotation, meanwhile, depends on Rodon and Cole's recovery. Meanwhile, the bullpen will have to hold steady, and names like Clay Holmes and Ian Hamilton could become even more important. The big challenge is balancing health and depth, something the Yankees have been trying, but rarely managed to maintain for an entire season. What Boone and Cashman made clear in this press conference is simple. 2026 won't be a fresh start, it will be a test. A test of patience, planning, and endurance. Aaron Judge returns with a mission to lead. Rodon needs to prove he's still the arm the Yankees envisioned when they gave him that massive contract. And Volpe will have to fight not only opponents, but his own body to reclaim the shortstop of the future role. The truth is, the Yankees are caught between two eras. On one side, the weight of tradition. On the other, the urgency of results. And in New York, patience has never been a fan's strong suit. So get ready, Yankees Nation, because what's coming will define the destiny of this franchise for the years ahead. And it all starts now. News 2. New York is restless. The stands at Yankee Stadium are empty. The autumn cold has already taken over the city, but behind the scenes, the fire never went out. The season is over, but the pressure, that never ends. And at the center of it all, a name that knows very well the weight of expectations. Brian Cashman. The Yankees general manager is facing an offseason that could define not only the team's future, but also his own legacy. After yet another early elimination and an impatient fan base, the Bronx is demanding answers. And one of them may come in the form of a bold, perhaps even controversial, move on the market. The possible arrival of Nick Castellanos. With Cody Bellinger declining his player option, the Yankees once again find themselves with a hole in the outfield. A symbolic hole, representing more than just a lineup vacancy. It's the difference between a competitive team and one that stumbles again when it matters most. And that's exactly why Cashman needs to act fast. Castellanos, the Phillies star, could be the name that changes the narrative. Since 2022, he's been one of Philadelphia's most recognized offensive pieces. But the clubhouse atmosphere has soured, and the relationship with the team seems close to ending. The veteran lost his starting spot during the playoffs, a sign that patience has run out. What was once a promising partnership has now turned into an inevitable breaking point. The Yankees are watching, from afar but attentively, because despite the criticism, Castellanos remains a reliable hitter. Even in a down year, he kept the batting average above .250, something he's maintained for 5 straight seasons. In New York, that could mean a lot, especially when there's a need to protect players like Judge and Soto in the lineup. The financial situation also supports a move. Bryce Harper has publicly urged the Phillies to prioritize extensions for JT Realmuto and Kyle Schwarber. The problem is that to keep those stars, Philadelphia needs to clear payroll space. And Castellanos' contract, one of the heaviest on the roster, is the first logical target. And so, The rumor gains traction, a trade between the Yankees and the Phillies. The potential package? Brendan Beck, a young right-handed pitcher, and Trent Grisham, a versatile outfielder, heading to Philadelphia. In return, Nick Castellanos would don the pinstripes of the Bronx. It's a move that makes sense for both sides. The Phillies would save money and open room for their young talent. The Yankees, on the other hand, would gain a ready-made hitter with experience and offensive power, something Cashman knows is essential after the collapse of 2025. With Bellinger on the open market and drawing attention from multiple teams, uncertainty dominates New York. Ideally, they'd keep him, of course. But in baseball, the ideal rarely happens. And Cashman can't afford to wait. Nick Castellanos might not be the perfect solution, but he could be the possible solution. His offensive style fits the New York mold. Aggressive, confident, and above all, unpredictable. Even with defensive flaws, Boone could manage his time between the field and the designated hitter role, alternating with Giancarlo Stanton, a strategy that would keep both players productive and healthy. However, the move doesn't come without risks. Castellanos carries more than just stats. He also has a reputation for being temperamental. Toward the end of last season, his behavior in the clubhouse drew attention. Criticism grew, and his relationship with the fan base deteriorated. But interestingly, he's exactly the kind of player who sometimes thrives in New York, a city built on intense personalities. People who don't shy away from the spotlight. The contract is heavy. The risk is high, but the reward could be massive. If it works, the Yankees would have a formidable lineup. Soto, Rizzo, Judge, Castellanos, and Stanton, a sequence capable of tearing apart any opposing rotation. It's the kind of offense that changes the momentum of an entire series. The kind of gamble that turns critics into believers. And for the Phillies, the financial relief would be immediate. They could use the savings to bolster the bullpen and invest in weaker areas. Beck and Grisham may not be stars, but they offer youth team control and depth, exactly what a contending team needs to stay relevant. But this deal isn't just about numbers. It's about philosophy. The Yankees still believe in experience, in players tested under bright lights. Philadelphia, on the other hand, is trying to rejuvenate without losing its identity. It's the kind of trade where nobody wins right away, but both sides could come out better if the fit is right. Castellanos represents the kind of player the Bronx loves to hate, until he starts hitting home runs into the third deck. He's a player who feeds on moments, on intensity, and in New York, that's pure gold. The offseason is a quiet game, but a cruel one. No team wins championships in November, but many lose them during that time. Cashman knows this better than anyone. That's why every move must be calculated, without fear, but with purpose. In the end, this could be the chess move that redefines the Yankees offseason. Castellanos isn't the star of the future, but he could be the catalyst for a winning present. And if there's one place where second chances turn into redemption, it's the Bronx. Because in New York, you either prove your worth or you're forgotten by history. And Nick Castellanos, if he comes, will have the chance to write the most important chapter of his career. So, Yankees fans, after all that, you can feel it. The Bronx is about to turn another page. On one side, renewed hope of the captain ready to lead again. On the other, the suspense of a bold potential market move that could completely reshape the 2026 lineup. Now it's your turn to join the debate. What would you do in Brian Cashman's place? Would you keep the current core and bet on the team's health? Or risk a major move to bring New York back to the top? Leave a like if you believe the Bronx will roar again. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates, and comment below what your choice would be for this offseason. Because in the end, it's the fans' voice that keeps the Yankees flame alive.